I had $97,700 in personal debt. I dealt with 7 years of debt collectors calling me constantly. I went through court settlements and a divorce. I lost money in cryptocurrency scams. Today, I'm completely debt-free. My credit score is over 700. I have over 1 million in liquid net worth. This is the complete story. You'll hear about every mistake I made. You'll learn about every strategy I used. You'll understand every painful lesson I learned along the way. I'm a healthcare professional, not a financial advisor. This is educational content based on my real experience. If you're drowning in debt right now, this video is for you. I'm living proof that if I can do it, you can do it too. This story starts in 2007. I was in my 20s. I just started working as a medical assistant. I was young and ambitious. I didn't know anything about money. I was working with a company trying to learn real estate. We were a group of people working together. We were building something as a team. We had late nights and early mornings. We all had big dreams about our future. 2 people in that group needed help with student loans. Each of them needed $30,000. Their credit wasn't good enough to qualify on their own. They looked at me and said, "We're doing this together. I'll make every payment. You won't pay a single cent. We're like family." I was young, and I trusted them. I wanted to help my friends, so I decided to co-sign the first loan. The $30,000 became $32,000 after origination fees. Then another person in the group needed help. I co-signed again. That loan also became $32,000 after fees. I'd co-signed $64,000 total in student loans. The loans were deferred for 2 years. No payments were required until 2009. That made the decision feel even safer. We had 2 full years where nobody had to pay anything. I didn't think about those loans after I signed them. Life continued as normal. I was working and building my career as a medical assistant. Everything seemed perfectly fine. At the same time, I had my own personal debt. I had $35,000 in student loans from my own education. I also had 3 credit cards. One card had a balance of $18,500. Another card had $11,300. The third card had $5,500. My total credit card debt was $35,300. My total personal debt was $70,300. That was my student loans plus my credit cards combined. My credit score before co-signing those loans was 750. After I co-signed those loans, my score dropped to 625. But I wasn't worried at all. The loans were deferred for 2 years. My friends were going to handle all the payments. I was just helping them get their education. I had absolutely no idea what was coming. 2009 arrived. The 2-year deferment period ended. Payments were supposed to start on both loans. For the first few months, my friends made their payments. I checked the accounts occasionally. Everything looked fine. I thought I'd made the right decision by helping them. Then 2010 hit. The payments stopped on both loans. There was no warning and no explanation. That's when my phone started ringing constantly. Debt collectors were calling me. Both loans had gone into collections. The calls started at 7 in the morning. Unknown numbers would call and say, "Mr. Smith, this is regarding loan account ending in 4723. You're 90 days past due. When can we expect payment?" I tried to explain my situation. I told them, I'm not the borrower. I just co-signed to help my friends. The collectors didn't care about my explanation. They said, "You co-signed these loans. That makes you equally responsible. We need payment immediately." I called my friends to ask what was happening. At first, they gave me excuses. They said things like, "I'm having a rough month." They told me I'll catch up soon. They kept saying, "Don't worry about it." Then they stopped answering my calls completely. They changed their phone numbers. They disappeared from my life. The debt collectors became more and more aggressive. I was getting multiple calls every single day. They called me at work during my shifts. They called me at home in the evenings. Different collection companies kept calling. Different collectors kept threatening me. They were all calling about the same $64,000. I tried to dodge them however I could. I changed my phone number multiple times. I avoided answering any unknown calls. I even moved to different addresses. This situation went on for 7 years. I spent 7 years looking over my shoulder. I spent 7 years feeling anxiety every time my phone rang. I spent 7 years listening to debt collectors leave voicemails threatening legal action. I thought if I could just wait it out, maybe they'd give up. I knew there was a 7-year statute of limitations. I hoped if I could dodge them long enough, maybe the debt would just go away. That strategy didn't work at all. 2017 arrived. I received a summons in the mail. These were official court papers. This was official legal action. 10 years after I co-signed those loans, the consequences had finally caught up with me. I panicked when I saw those papers. I didn't have money to hire a lawyer, so I decided to try to handle it myself. I asked acquaintances who were lawyers for advice. I thought I could figure this situation out on my own. The court date came and I showed up. I was thinking I could explain my situation to the judge. I believed the judge would understand I was just trying to help my friends, and I thought the judge would see that I was the victim in this situation. The judge wasn't having any of it. The judge told me, "You signed these documents. You're legally responsible for these loans. I'm ordering you to settle for the amount on the summons." The settlement amount was $18,700 total for both loans. I had a whole life insurance policy that I'd been paying into for years. I could borrow up to $27,400 from that policy at the time. I borrowed the maximum amount of $27,400 from my life insurance. $18,700 went directly to the court settlement. But then 2018 happened. I went through a divorce. The divorce was expensive and complicated. I had to hire a lawyer to protect myself. The remaining money from my life insurance loan went to divorce expenses. Approximately $9,000 went to legal fees and costs related to the divorce. During the divorce process, my credit cards got maxed out again. Cards I'd been trying to pay down all went back to their limits. I was back to $35,300 in credit card debt. Now, let me add up my total debt. I had $35,000 in student loans. I had $35,300 in credit card debt. I had $27,400 borrowed from my life insurance that I had to pay back with interest. My total debt was now $97,700. 2018 was my absolute rock bottom. This was 11 years after co-signing those loans. I was divorced. I had almost $100,000 in debt. I dealt with years of stress from debt collectors. That's when I decided enough was enough. I was done being a victim. Before I tell you about my debt payoff strategy, I need to tell you about my expensive cryptocurrency education. This happened in early 2017. I was right in the middle of dealing with the court case. I was desperate to find any way to solve my money problems. Someone told me about a platform called USI Tech. They said it provided passive income through automated trading. They said I could make money while I sleep. It sounded absolutely perfect for someone who was drowning in debt like I was. I invested money into USI Tech. I lost money on that investment. A few months later, I heard about Bitconnect. People told me this one was different from USI Tech. They said it had guaranteed returns through a lending platform. People were claiming they were making thousands of dollars. I decided to get into Bitconnect. I was in Bitconnect for 10 months total. I was watching my dashboard constantly. I was believing I was finally going to solve all my money problems. August 2017 arrived. I managed to get my initial investment back from Bitconnect. I thought I'd figured out the system. I thought I was one of the smart ones who got out in time. Then I heard about another platform called Davor. It used the same model as Bitconnect, but it was newer. I thought if I got in early enough, I could double my money. Maybe I could even triple it. I took everything I'd gotten back from Bitconnect. I put absolutely all of it into Davor. I put in every single dollar. Then Davor collapsed completely. Bitconnect collapsed right after that. I lost everything I'd put in. I lost thousands of dollars in total. All that money was gone. This was money I desperately needed to pay off my debt. This was money I couldn't afford to lose. I was devastated by these losses. I felt incredibly stupid. How could I fall for these obvious scams? How could I be so desperate that I made these terrible decisions? But here's the thing about that experience. That loss became the most valuable education I ever received in my life. It forced me to stop chasing get-rich-quick schemes. It forced me to actually learn what money really was. I started studying everything I could. I learned about the Federal Reserve and how it works. I learned about money printing and quantitative easing. I learned about inflation and its effects. I studied monetary policy in depth. I learned exactly why Bitconnect and Davor were obvious scams. They promised guaranteed returns to investors. That's always a red flag in investing. I learned about real Bitcoin and how it's different. I learned it's not a lending platform or a scheme. I learned about actual Bitcoin with its fixed supply of 21 million coins. I learned that no one can print more Bitcoin. I learned that no one promises you returns with real Bitcoin. That expensive lesson changed everything about how I understood money. It changed not just my approach to debt payoff. It changed my entire understanding of how money itself works. 2018 changed my life. This was after the court settlement. This was after the cryptocurrency losses. This was after the divorce. I had $97,700 in debt staring me down. I was completely done being a victim of my circumstances. I was done chasing get-rich-quick schemes. I was going to fix this situation the right way. Here's the exact strategy I used to pay off my debt. Step 1 was to stop the bleeding completely. I committed to taking on no more new debt. I stopped chasing schemes. I stopped co-signing for anyone. I stopped helping friends financially under any circumstances. I kept one credit card for true emergencies only. Everything else got locked away where I couldn't use it. Step 2 was attacking my $35,000 student loan first. This was my biggest single debt that I had. Every extra dollar I could find went directly to that loan. I worked extra shifts at the hospital whenever they were available. I cut expenses everywhere I possibly could. I stopped eating out at restaurants. I took no vacations. I bought no new clothes. Every single dollar I earned had a specific purpose. It took me several years, but I finally paid off that entire $35,000 student loan. Step 3 was tackling my credit cards. I had 3 maxed out credit cards. One had $18,500, another had $11,300, the third had $5,500. I decided to use the debt snowball method. I made minimum payments on the 2 big credit cards. I threw everything else at the smallest credit card. I paid off the $5,500 card first. That victory felt absolutely amazing. Then I rolled that entire payment into the $11,300 card. Then I rolled everything into the $18,500 card. Here's the key thing I did. I didn't close any of those credit cards after paying them off. I kept them all open with zero balances on them. Why did I keep them open? Because of credit utilization ratios. Going from 100% maxed out to 0% utilization is massive for improving your credit score. Step 4 was paying back my life insurance loan. I'd borrowed $27,400 from my policy. That loan was accruing interest that I had to pay back to myself. I attacked that loan systematically. Every month I made payments to reduce that balance. It took time, but I paid back every dollar I'd borrowed. Step 5 was credit score repair work. I pulled all 3 of my credit reports. I got reports from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. I found multiple errors on my reports. There were old accounts that shouldn't have been there. There was wrong information being reported. The court settlement was showing up incorrectly. I disputed absolutely everything that was wrong. Every single error came off my credit report within 60 days of disputing it. Step 6 was making perfect payment history my absolute obsession. I automated every single bill I had. My electric bill was automated, my water bill was automated, my phone bill was automated, my credit card payments were automated, my life insurance payment was automated, everything was set to autopay. For several years straight, I had perfect payment history. I didn't have one single late payment on anything. Step 7 was stopping all new credit applications. I stopped applying for any new credit cards. I stopped applying for any loans. I stopped applying for car financing. I applied for absolutely nothing. Every hard inquiry on your credit report drops your score by a few points. I needed those points going up, not going down. My average credit age is 12 years and 2 months. Keeping those old credit cards open with zero balances saved both my credit age and my utilization ratio. The entire debt payoff process took me 4 full years. I started seriously in 2018 after my divorce and finished in 2022. Those were 4 years of intense discipline. I took no vacations during that time. I bought no new car. I rarely ate out at restaurants, unless it was a special occasion. Every single dollar I earned had a specific purpose. I also worked my way up in my healthcare career. By 2022, I'd become an operations manager. That income increase helped me accelerate my final debt payments significantly. 2022 was an incredible year for me. I made my very last debt payment. I was completely debt-free. I also got remarried to an amazing person who supported my financial journey. This was after 11 years of dealing with consequences from co-signing those loans. This was after 4 years of focused and disciplined debt payoff. I was finally free from all of it. Here's what nobody ever tells you about paying off debt. Getting to zero isn't the end of your journey. It's actually the beginning. Do you remember those cryptocurrency losses I told you about? I lost money in USI Tech, Bitconnect, and Davor. That expensive education taught me something absolutely crucial about money. I needed to understand real assets instead of scams. I needed to learn about legitimate wealth-building strategies instead of schemes. January 2019 arrived. I was still in the process of paying off my debt, but I'd been studying Bitcoin seriously for over a year at this point. I was studying real Bitcoin, not lending platforms or scam tokens. I'd come to understand how the Federal Reserve prints money constantly. I understood how inflation destroys purchasing power over time. I understood how Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million coins that can never be increased. I made a decision that most people thought was completely insane. I converted my entire SEPIRA retirement account to Bitcoin. I wasn't gambling with this decision. I was protecting my wealth from inflation using everything I'd learned from my expensive mistakes. I started dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. I bought Bitcoin consistently every single week. I wasn't trying to time the market at all. I was just buying and holding for the long term. I accumulated most of my Bitcoin when it was priced between $3,000 and $10,000 per coin. I've continued this exact strategy for years. I still do it today. I'm not doing this because I'm chasing get-rich-quick schemes anymore. I learned that lesson the hard way. I'm doing this because I understand how monetary systems actually work. 2022 arrived, and I became completely debt-free. All that money that had been going to debt payments could now be invested. I could invest even more aggressively. I also continued paying into my whole life insurance policy. I purchased paid-up additions riders to increase my death benefit and cash value. Today, I can borrow up to $36,000 from my policy because of how I've been building it. Fast forward to December 2024. My net worth crossed $1 million in liquid assets. Let me say that number again so it sinks in. I went from $97,700 in debt to over $1 million in net worth. That transformation took 6 years from when I started seriously after my divorce. It took 5 years from when I converted my IRA to Bitcoin. It took 2 years from when I became completely debt-free and remarried. Let me tell you what I learned from 17 years of financial mistakes and recovery. Lesson 1 is to never co-sign loans for anyone under any circumstances. I don't care if it's your best friend. I don't care if it's your family member. I don't care if it's your parents. You need to say no. Those loans I co-signed in 2007 haunted me for 11 full years. I ended up in court in 2017. The consequences from that decision lasted over a decade. Lesson 2 is that the 7-year statute of limitations doesn't actually protect you if they sue you in court. I tried to wait out the clock. It didn't work at all. They can reset the entire clock with legal action. Lesson 3 is that your credit score is absolutely fixable, no matter how bad it gets. My score dropped from 750 all the way down to 625. I rebuilt it back up to over 700. It takes time and it takes discipline, but it's absolutely doable. Lesson 4 is that debt payoff is purely mathematical. It's not about motivation or inspiration or positive thinking. It's simply about having more money coming in than going out. That's the entire formula. Lesson 5 is to learn from your expensive mistakes. Those cryptocurrency scams cost me thousands of dollars, but they taught me to educate myself properly. They taught me to stop chasing schemes. They taught me to understand how money actually works. Lesson 6 is that traditional financial advice isn't designed to build wealth. It's designed to keep you dependent on the system. I didn't build wealth by following traditional advice. I built wealth by understanding monetary systems and thinking differently. Lesson 7 is that whole life insurance can be a powerful financial tool when used correctly. I was able to borrow $27,400 from my policy when I needed it most. Now I can borrow even more because I continued building it. It's not just insurance. It's a financial asset. Lesson 8 is that credit utilization matters more than almost anything else for your credit score. Paying off those credit cards but keeping them open with zero balances saved my credit score. Lesson 9 is that perfect payment history for multiple years fixes almost everything. You need to automate all your payments. You can't risk even a single late payment. Lesson 10 is that divorce can completely destroy your finances. You need to protect yourself. You need to understand the legal implications. Remarrying to the right person who supports your financial goals makes all the difference. Lesson 11 is that income absolutely matters for debt payoff. Working my way up from medical assistant to operations manager gave me significantly more cash flow to attack debt faster. Lesson 12 is that alternative investments can work if you educate yourself first before investing. My IRA conversion to Bitcoin was very controversial, but it worked because I spent years learning before I did it. I didn't chase it. I studied it thoroughly. The biggest lesson I learned is that every single mistake made me smarter. Every failure taught me something valuable that I needed to know. Those co-signing disasters taught me to protect myself financially after 11 years of consequences. Those cryptocurrency scams taught me to educate myself properly before investing in anything. That 4-year debt payoff journey taught me discipline and the value of delayed gratification. That divorce taught me to choose a financial partner wisely. None of it was wasted time or money. Every single painful lesson built the foundation for where I am today. I went from $97,700 in debt to over $1 million in net worth. I went from working as a medical assistant to becoming an operations manager. I went from a credit score of 625 to over 700. I went from being divorced to being happily remarried. This journey started in 2007 when I co-signed those loans. It continued to 2017 when everything caught up with me in court. It went through 2018 when I divorced and hit rock bottom. It reached 2022 when I became completely debt-free and remarried. It culminated in 2024 when I hit $1 million in net worth. This entire journey took 17 years. Some of those years were dealing with consequences of bad decisions I made. Some of those years were fighting hard to recover. Some of those years were focused on building wealth. Some of those years brought me the right life partner. That's my complete journey. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy, but it was real. This is educational content based on my personal experience. I'm not a financial advisor. You should consult professionals for your specific situation. But if you're in debt right now, I want you to know this. You can get out. It's absolutely possible. I'm living proof that it can be done. Even if you made terrible mistakes in the past, even if you're dealing with consequences from years ago, even if your situation feels completely hopeless, you can turn it around. You need a clear strategy. You need discipline. You need to educate yourself about how money actually works. You need the right support system. Do you want more real financial education? Subscribe to Wealth Decoded. I share all the lessons I learned from 17 years of expensive mistakes. Leave a comment below telling me where you are on your debt-free journey. I read every single comment that comes in. If this video helped you in any way, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Thanks for watching this video. Your financial freedom's absolutely possible. You need to start today.